Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process, and if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that, before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on it, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we would appreciate you doing so by giving us send an email. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. Or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you, we'll address it on the internet show. And then as time allows, we'll send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that, because makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that's just boatloads easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. In lieu of that, if you're able to join us live, you can open up a Zoom window on your browser, or you can just call one of the many numbers that Zoom makes available and enter our meeting ID number. The meeting ID number for these Monday through Friday Mind Shifters is 853-2357-4173. So the meeting ID number is 853-2357-4173. And you can either call and listen in, or you can open up a browser window and participate full on, or just listen. And we're greatly appreciative of everyone who chooses to spend time with us, and even more so when people choose to offer feedback. How are these things landing for you? What is being of most service to you? Because that's how we end up amplifying and multiplying the effects. We are hoping to, as Michael Rice used to say, put these tools into the hands of every mind, heart, and being on the planet, whether they have any any financial resources to pay for it or not. So, how can we support you? Do we move back into the reading of the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg? I was thinking about poetry with the passing of Andrea Gibson, and we were talking about that, and we're talking about poetry of people like David White, one of my favorites over the years. And he has a poem that just keeps coming back to me ever since I shared a couple poems by Andrea Gibson. And one of them that he did and he recited in the interview with Krista Tippett, one of the poems was titled Working Together. Working together. We shape ourself to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again. The visible and the invisible, working together in common cause to produce the miraculous. I'm thinking of the way the intangible air, traveled at speed around a shaped wing, easily holds our weight. I'm thinking of the way the intangible air, traveled at speed around a shaped wing, easily holds our weight. So may we, in this life, trust to those elements we have yet to see, or those elements we've yet to imagine, and look for the true shape of our own self. Look for the true shape of our own self by forming it well to the great intangibles about us, so that we may in this life trust to those elements we've yet to see or even to imagine, and look for the true shape of our own self by forming it well to the great intangibles about us. Working Together by David White. He has a book called Consolations that I have read a number of pieces from, but for whatever reason, I just wanted to highlight David White, his work, his perspective, and he's one of those sparks of the one mind who's come here to help bring awareness to the utility of something as ephemeral as poetry. And he routinely consults with corporations these days, and corporations don't spend a whole lot of time pouring their money down the drain. So there's got to be something of value that he's offering as a poet, as a philosopher, that these corporations are paying him substantial funds of sums of money to come talk to their people or work with their people. So that's a little Working Together poem by David White. And I'll return, if no one raises a hand or unmutes to talk, I'll return to the reading from the Walk in the Physical under the category heading of manifestation. The question is, I once read about a near-death experience where the experiencer learned that we can have the power to speak things into existence. Is this true? And Christian writes, since we are part of the source, capital S source of reality, reality responds to our intention. Our local physical system is a lot more, quote, dense, close quotes, And it's a lot more, quote, inert, close quotes, than some other systems, which are often immediately thought responsive. So there are other systems in which if you have a thought about something, it creates something. If you pour your mind energy into, having a little pink squirrel dancing on the palm of your hand, the pink squirrel shows up dancing on the palm of your hand in other reality systems. In this reality system, you might go thousands of lifetimes trying to manifest a pink squirrel dancing in the palm of your hand and not be able to do it because the system is set up to be more slow and less thought responsive. But he goes on and he says, and yet even here, our intent always has an effect, and words are formulations of your intent. Manifestation will occur within the, quote, rule set, close quotes, of whatever reality system the individual is participating in. And then he puts in parentheses, see Tom Campbell's work, my big toe, my big theory of everything, a 3-book series from Tom Campbell. The next question he offers is, how are we already powerful creators? And Christian writes, for a moment, forget that you're in a dense, shared physical reality and imagine that your consciousness has the ability to create whatever it thinks about or intends. That is how it is in many other reality systems. Our dense physical reality also responds to our intent, but just much more slowly. And it is being, quote, nudged, close quotes, by all participants collectively, not just individually. The firmness and the denseness of our physical reality is one of its unique qualities that helps us experientially learn some very, quote, in your face, close quotes, experiential lessons. More evolved beings tend to have more, quote, love capability, close quotes, or you might call it, quote, experience capability, close quotes. So for those more evolved beings, mastering the dense physical universe experience ends up yielding extreme capability in other systems. So in other words, if you can master the rigors of being human, your capability to express yourself is greater, especially in less constricting systems. So you may be feeling like you're going through a grind and a slog here this time around in this incarnation, in this physical experience, and yet chances are it's putting you in a very, very good space for what's next. Just like Little League helps people prepare for their high school baseball team, and the high school baseball team helps them prepare for the college leagues if they want to go there, et cetera. This is like skill building, muscle building from having an experience in the physical realm with all of these significant constraint sets. The next question he offers is, I read that we are beings practicing to be able to create godlike creations. Are we practicing to be gods? And Christian writes, as pieces of capital S source, we are already powerful creators. As the spirit evolves towards love and past fear, through discrete experience, that power increases. From a human perspective, capabilities that are very common in higher vibrational realities can appear very godlike indeed, even though they are the very nature of every soul. Those, quote, powers, close quotes, increase as we actually conquer fear and grow toward love. So his answer is no, we're not becoming gods, but we're realizing more of our potential as we get the roadblocks to seeing our true nature out of our way. And when I read things like this, I want to keep reminding people, please pay attention to what you're feeling internally. If you're feeling a fear or an upset, if you're feeling, oh, I don't like it when he says that, or oh, I can't agree with that, just breathe and soften and notice that it's perfectly okay to be questioning and to be living in the observation. And at the same time, understanding that every tightness and tension you experience is part of your own creation. And you can get access to it. You can ask yourself, how am I creating this emotion? What am I making this mean? How am I generating fear in this moment? And if you choose to do that, it will put you in a much better place to be able to construct a life that you highly prefer. So if when we're reading something about are we practicing to be gods, or when you hear the answer from Christian that says from a human perspective, there are capabilities that are very, very common in other realities, that they would seem godlike from our reality. And if there's any part of you that wants to recoil from that or think, oh, that's dangerous territory, thinking that you're godlike or whatever, just breathe and soften and see what you can come up with about what your mind is telling you, what meaning you're giving those words, and how it is that your mind is trying to convince you that there's something in that thought that warrants your being afraid or you're being upset. And just look at it rather than assuming the role of victim and assuming that you know you're right and this other person or situation is wrong. The next question is, if I desire something, I sense intuitively that means it is possible for it to be attained. Why do I sense that? And Christian writes, if you can conceive it, it is possible. All is possible within all that is. And all that is enjoys expanding what is. One of the valuable things we're doing by being physical is creating desire, or Way of Mastery would say, allowing desire to flow through us, allowing ourselves to tune in to become aware of and stay tuned into the flow of desire, this energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through me in this moment. So there's a way of looking at this that says we are here as extensions of the one mind. We are here as conduits for the extension of the creative energy into form. And then he asks, so would God, and you're part of God, have something that is unattainable to it? No. He writes in parentheses, except that God, through you and me, may experience the perspective of something not being attainable for a while. In other words, we're capable of creating this dream in which we're small and we're limited and we're stuck and we can't figure it out, just for the purpose of building the spiritual muscle of being able to choose for love, even in the moment where we're feeling small and helpless and stuck and worried, building the capacity to shift from those fearful thoughts into a loving thought pattern, regardless of the outside circumstances. That takes the building of that process. That takes the muscle memory. That takes the practice of welcoming life on its own terms and asking in the flow of life on a regular basis, what's mine to do to be of service here to myself and others? How can I be a blessing to myself and others in this moment? So the next question is meditation and awareness of the higher realms. And the question comes in, how do I meditate? And he writes here, see this section from part 4 that's titled How to Start in Meditation. And that'll give you one idea. He says, but unlike an action within form, meditation is not just a specific prescribed activity you can sit down and do. Meditation is the focusing of intent away from the focus momentum and the thought momentum of physical reality, but shifting it, this focus of attention or intention, towards awareness itself. So we're shifting the focus of our attention away from the physical reality and limitations, and we're shifting our focus toward awareness itself, becoming aware of being aware, of the process of awareness. And as we do that, the momentum changes. Over time, the thoughts that arrive to us have less and less velocity. And gradually, our ability to perceive reality from a clearer, you might call it a supra-physical perspective, our ability gains traction all on its own. It's not something that we go do. It's rather a practice of focus such that our larger nature can rise back up all on its own. So you've got this awareness, you've got this capacity for higher awareness, you've got a pathway, a keyway to insight, intuition, inspiration. You've got access to this intuitive, creative mind that Einstein calls the precious gift. You're just not practiced at tapping into it. And you might begin relating to meditation as the practice of tapping into those areas of your experience or awareness or consciousness. That larger nature, he finishes in this Q&A, he says, that larger nature that just rises up on its own if we just start paying attention to it, that larger nature is one that is more alert, more clear, and more real than the experience of any given local thought. So you will, if you practice focusing attention, intention on your awareness and on loving awareness and consciousness itself, you will end up experiencing change that's driven by life and love itself. It doesn't come from your doing it. It just unfolds because the barriers to its unfolding have been removed or seen as false. The next question he offers is, how can we experience higher reality systems? How can we meet and open up a dialogue with our spiritual guides? Christian writes, in general, awareness of non-physical environments and interactions can be promoted by practicing meditation, because meditation promotes personal familiarity with the part of you that already transcends the physical. This is your awareness itself. In parentheses, he writes, consciousness itself, close parentheses. Put another way, he says, awareness of the non-physical increases as you gain the ability to relinquish your focus on the sensory data and on thoughts, which are all aspects of our local reality and the local personality. If we shift our focus away from that and surrender into the depths of alert, conscious being, that's who you already are beneath all of the data points and all of the thoughts and all of the judgments. So when you shift your focus into that, you become more aware of it. He writes, the, quote, frequencies, close quotes, of the higher realms are initially very subtle and refined. At least they seem to be from our vantage point. So this idea of tuning in requires one to be able to get a sense of something in the past or focus past something that is a comparatively dense thought form. In other words, I've heard it so many times. I've seen that look on somebody's face so many times. I know what's coming next. I know they're going to end up being angry. I know they're going to come back with hurt or blame me for something. So this very dense thought pattern seems all-consuming when I first start. But as I practice becoming aware of the part of me that's aware of that thought pattern, rather than living in the moment as though I am the thought pattern expressing, and I build this experience base for myself of stepping back and observing awareness as it holds the thought, and it holds the awareness of all of the other aspects of the physical and energetic world. As I practice tuning into that, that becomes easier to see. And once we tune past, as he writes here, the local dense form and tune into the higher form, all of a sudden, we don't perceive that higher form as subtle. We perceive it as extremely real and powerful. In fact, even more real than what we call this lucid, physical, waking life. He goes on, he writes, another approach that works for many people is dedicated OBE techniques. The Monroe Institute has credible OBE programs, and certain practiced OBE explorers have published works on the process. For instance, he says, see the works of William Buhlman, Buhlman. Now, I'm stuck here because my brain is not letting me tap into what the OBE acronym stands for. So I'm guessing it's something birth experience because it's not coming to mind. But I will look into that and see what I can find out. So we're about halfway through our time together in this first hour. We have plenty of time for comments or questions. What if anything, is this stirring up for people, talking about becoming aware that the thought base that you experience and the belief base you experience and the physical body you experience seems so real, and yet all these teachings are telling us it's not as real as the non-physical realm. And that our thoughts about ourselves and the meaning of life, these things are not in any way set in stone. So please remember, we welcome your comments or questions, even if I seem to be in the middle of reading something. The next question is it possible to have direct experience of the higher realms through meditation? And Christian writes, yes, that is definitely possible, though practically speaking, it's often very difficult to achieve. Imagine your consciousness as receiving a, quote, data stream, close quotes, of the physical world, which, in here again, he references Tom Campbell's book, The My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything Reality Model. He writes, that is, your consciousness already is right where it is, and the physical experience appears within it as a consistent stream of sensory perceptions and thoughts. So this physical reality that you are experiencing is arising in the middle of your consciousness. He writes, meditation is using your fundamental power or your intent to shift focus away from those perceptions and thoughts toward the clarity of alertness itself. Since your higher nature already exists in what you might say is outside of the physical reality, as you train yourself to let go of the physical data stream and your focus on the physical data points and shift toward the present moment for exactly what it is without any labels, experiences of your higher nature can be automatically rising up back into their own. You can't, quote, go get, close quotes, those experiences as if doing so were some physical activity. But you can definitely gain increasing familiarity with what you really are already at your base. Your awareness, you can become aware of it for exactly what it is. It's 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 far more than any of your thoughts. It's far more than any of your physical experiences. It's the field within which all of your thoughts and physical experiences arise. And as you do this, you clear the way to naturally experiencing the larger reality. And you clear the way for wielding your intent to do so. You are already that larger reality right now. You are already a transcendent consciousness capable of engaging in many other realities. So if you're willing to completely let go of all the forms of the physical that you think are you, and just experience the real you, which is your awareness, and release every locally learned requirement or expectation, you may spontaneously experience the larger reality in a tangible way. One of the teachers that was channeled years and years ago was Seth, S-E-T-H, Seth Speaks books. And he writes here, as the guide Seth says, quote, physical reality is like a bright point of light you never look away from, close quotes. But we can look away from it. We can look away from it with willingness, humility, and practice. And when we look away from what we call the physical reality, we open our ability to perceive, conceive, integrate a much deeper, broader, wider range of experiences. You know, as long as I'm so myopically focused on one point or another in front of me, the rest of my life, 99.99% of my life, goes on unnoticed by me. It comes to mind, I sit in this office on a regular basis sometimes when I have new people here, and I start to try and get them to question some of the fundamental assumptions that they believe have been running their life or that have allowed them to have the success in life that they've had. And I start to get them to question it. And I say, look, you're an entity who has been gifted with the ability, this infinite capacity to choose the focus of your conscious awareness in each new present moment. And it is the focus of your conscious awareness in each new present moment that actively creates your experience of life. So I'll be here in this room and there'll be people sitting across from me and in the brown chair or the blue love seat. And and we'll be talking, and I'll spin my chair around to look in this direction. As though I'm looking at my computer or the wall in front of me and I'm just focused on it. And they're sitting on the other side of the room and I can't see them. And I talk to them about how if I sit here and focus on my phone system or the lamp on my desk, even if I keep talking to you, even if I acknowledge at some level that you're in the room and I'm having a conversation with you, I'm missing a tremendous amount of this interaction, of the experience of having you in the room with me, simply because I'm so myopically focused on something over here. And that's what they're trying to tell us in this lesson. There's an infinite capacity of other realms and experiences and ways of communicating and connecting. And like David E. Martin says, we probably have not just the 5 senses, we probably have 12 senses because there are 12 cranial nerves. And there may be 7 other input access mechanisms for this physical body that can help us tap into things that are more subtle, more energetically based, less solidly physical. And if I can just practice shifting my awareness away from what is so obvious and blatant and physical and tangible, and soften and open myself to what else might be there, I can usher myself into an experience, as we talk about, that goes beyond words, each new heartbeat. What's it like to shift the focus of my conscious awareness away from the physical, toward awareness itself, toward the detachment of identification with thoughts? The next question he offers is, why do we, quote, have to do, close quotes, things like meditation to get awareness of these higher realms? And Christian writes, the reasons are complex, but the short answer, in the broad sense, is this. The experience of Earth involves a set of constraints upon consciousness, and these constraints can facilitate a very specialized experience. In other words, that is the very nature of this physical experience we're in. We volunteered to engage in an experience where we do not know, because that prompts in us an unbelievably real and challenging internal and external experience. This veil of forgetfulness is rigorous and very consistent. Spiritually speaking, there's nothing that we, quote, have to do, close quotes. However, from a technical standpoint, the sense data and local thoughts seem completely real and convincing once awareness, quote, loses itself, close quotes, in them. So my awareness gets lost and thinks that it is somehow in a victim position rather than a creator position. And it thinks that because this veil of forgetfulness is rigid and consistent, and awareness has gotten lost in it. The saying is, man fell asleep, and man went into a deep sleep and never woke up. So this idea is that we're dreaming a dream of separation because we're focusing on a tiny little bit of what our 5 physical senses show us. And we've lost ourselves and lost sight of our awareness of the bigger picture. So he writes, so to regain a higher vantage point, we often need to train ourselves to let go of or to look away from all those thoughts and forms about and around the physical universe and the physical universe that seems so real. Our belief in their being real gives them their feel for us, their solid feeling for us, make them seem so real to us. Way of Mastery says this, a number of different times, and one of them it says, your thought that what's real in the world might jump up and grab you and crush you if you try and step out too much, if you try to step into your true nature. Your thought about that is absolutely true until you wake up and realize that it's a joke, and that who you are and what you are can't ever be chipped, dented, rusted, faded, or broken in any way. When you give up the focus on and the belief in the physical world as being the be all and end all, you open to the possibilities of another level of experience of not just the physical, but all kinds of other actualities in, through, as, and around this life you're experiencing. The next question is, I've heard the phrase, quote, "it's all inside you already," close quotes. Can you please elaborate on what this means? And Christian writes, the you, in quotes, that is experiencing everything, your awareness itself, this is what you really are. And that, quote, substance, close quotes, already actually has everything within it and is connected to everything else. So your essence is already contains everything and is connected to everything. Christian writes, this can be fully and blissfully experienced when one lets go of all of the physical references and attachments and beliefs and associations. When you let go of all of that, holding on to it, trying to make it solid, trying to make it something that you can claim means you're right and the world is wrong. When you let go of all of that, then everything is experienced as very tangibly being within you, within your awareness. As if your real body itself, your real aliveness was full of everything that is. So it's at a different level of scale. At one level of scale, I can be very aware of being a physical being with significant limitations based on strength and speed of motion and gravity and all of that stuff. And in the next moment, if I open to it, I can have an experience that transcends all of that. Since all of it is arising within the awareness that we call my consciousness, or your consciousness, or the one mind, or the Christ mind. The next question he asks is, I've heard the phrase, it's all inside of you. Well, that's the one I just read. If there are spirits and angels, etc., won't they just show themselves clearly to us? Why would they hide? Why would they be disguised? Why don't the guides guide us in a way that we can more easily perceive? That's the question. Why do guides buy into this challenge of difficulty? And Christian writes, the veil of forgetfulness that we've agreed to is very effective. The guides do guide us every day. Actually, in fact, I believe there are more guides at work than there are players in the game, so that every person would have 2 or more. He writes, but we are often not consciously aware of the guiding messages that are being sent. So it can seem like there's no message being sent, but it's just that we have a lack of an awareness of the message. He writes, indeed, even as our guides help us, their role is centered around maintaining the veracity of our conscious free will and our choice making. Our guides always respect the quote rules, close quotes, the ones we signed up for, because from their vantage point, they can see how our independent choice making is beneficial for us and the whole of all it is. The guides help us in various ways that may on the surface appear to be subtle. For instance, they may provide energetic or mental nudges in the form of feelings or fleeting thoughts. They may send us messages in the form of dreams. They may gently, quote, guide, close quotes, small probabilities to help things align in a certain way. Any of these might be messages, might be ways that our angels or guides assist us or communicate with us.
Dr. Tim?
Yes.
First of all, we had a question in the chat. The author of My Big Toe.
Thomas Campbell.
Oh yeah, you said David Martin. I think that's what.
David E. Martin has another book titled "Lizards Eat Butterflies."
Oh, okay.
And the Lizards Eat Butterflies book is about how one part of it is about how we might have 12 senses, since we have a cranial nerve for each of the 5 senses that we call our physical senses, but we've got 12 cranial nerves. There may be 7 other quote senses, close quotes, or ways for us to gain information, wisdom, impressions, etc. And that's from the David E. Martin book titled Lizards Eat Butterflies. But then the Thomas Campbell books are, My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. And there are 3 of those.
Well, getting back to what you've been reading, I couldn't get my mind around some of the things that Christian Sundberg is saying until I realized that if we don't have words for things, we get information and don't know how to identify the source of it. We think it's us. What you just said about we get messages from feelings, for instance, we all probably go into a space and immediately have a sense that this has some darkness about it, and maybe we're projecting. We can't even tell if it's us or it. But there aren't words, and it's a faculty that we have. One of those senses in the lizard's book that hasn't been identified and separated out as a sense. I've been having this experience with my journals that I've been working with. Some of them I've written in italics because I was pretending that Jesus was talking to me. I always thought it was just me talking to me. Reading back over them, the information I was getting from that pretending was amazing. And I discounted it because it I thought it was me, and me was being discounted. How could I know those things? And I didn't use them. I didn't pay attention to them. If I'd paid attention, I would have never even needed the radio show. I wouldn't have needed wake-up sheets. I mean, I had ways of getting information, but I was discounting them immediately because there were no. Anyway,
well, because that's what you were taught. You were taught to discount them.
It's amazing, though, how massive that is, the information coming in, and how much we discount it. What a shame. Good grief, it's amazing.
Indeed.
So, and Christian,
and you're on right now, the excitement in your voice. This is the invitation of this book.
Yeah, and he's excited about it, and he is working very hard to be in the physical enough to give us the words. And some of them sound like gobbledygook to me. But it doesn't matter because he's pointing at something that we've all experienced in some ways already. Oh, anyway, I'm
And
hard.
and and even more important, we can get access to in this next moment or this next moment. It's not like we've seen it already, we've been there, we've done that, and now it's lost to us. It's always available.
Yeah, it's funny. Lizards shed their skin, and I feel as if I'm jumping out of mine. That's probably what he meant.
Well, part
Oh,
of what he means in the Lizards Eat Butterflies book is he talks about people talk about human beings going through this metamorphosis, this change, like a caterpillar that
yeah.
goes from being a caterpillar to having this gorging, eating, this ridiculous consumption of, eating everything in sight and growing massively, and then going and spinning a cocoon and going into all this messy gobbledygook phase, and then emerging as a butterfly, something
Hmm.
almost completely unrecognizable to
Yeah.
the caterpillar.
Hmm.
And he talks about how people use that metaphor or analogy for humans and saying, it's okay, little caterpillar, you're gonna go through your metamorphosis, you're going to become the butterfly, you're going to, soar, etc. And he says a better analogy for that is lizards. Lizards start out as lizards and they end as lizards. And all that happens as they live their life is that they eat basically evenly over time. They don't gorge themselves in some kind of a gluttonous fit like the caterpillars have to do. And as they grow, they outgrow their skin. So they shed their skin, but they still look like a lizard.
Hmm.
And they
But
don't
we,
go through that gluttonous period, that wasteful period.
well,
And then we get to be better at being lizards.
well, we're doing that. Don't they say every 7 years you're a totally new body?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just letting you into why he chose the topic
I
lizards
see.
eat butterflies.
Because
And so
I,
he says it's a better analogy for us to think
mhm,
of ourselves as lizards. We're just
yeah.
people. We're just growing into who we are. We're just learning more about ourselves. And we start as people and we end as people,
Yeah.
rather than thinking we're going to become something so much more magnificent. We're already a miracle of life expressing in form.
It's funny how when some kind of realization comes through, the body reacts too. We are so connected to the outside that we don't know about. The, the extra physical can come, if it comes into our minds as an aha or an understanding, our body has a reaction too, like electricity passing through or something. I guess that happens with listening to music or hearing those poems you read. Like the skin came off all at once. She had, Andrea Gibson has no skin almost. She doesn't have filters, but she has words that fit into our brains, our already preconditioned, pre-prepared brains. Oh well, I'm going nuts. Anyway, I better
Well,
stop talking.
Andrea Gibson just had that little gift, right? It's not like she had anything that the rest of us don't have. It's just that she had this slight different attunement to
Mm,
this creative energy that we're calling consciousness, that we're calling the creative force of life, etc. And so coming through her, this unique expression of the energy of creation coming through Andrea was not better, not worse than, just unique to her. And part of one of the wonderful, beautiful threads that make up the tapestry of life.
mm.
Well, if you've ever looked at any of those magnificent tapestries, you realize these beautiful splashes of color, these depictions of actions from different people over here and over there in this tapestry, they're wonderful, they're magnificent, but I wouldn't be able to perceive them unless there were the black threads and the gray threads
Mm-hmm.
and the simple pale blue threads, right? And so the background from which it all arises is every bit as important as the music you hear, right? The silence between the notes is a part of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Without that silence, there is no music.
Oh, so that brings up a pile of different questions. One about Andrea, and I know it's going way off where you've just been, but the fact that she got sick and died so young, I wonder if the body just couldn't handle the overload of the connection she had with actuality or something that most of us are insulated against.
Okay,
I know.
but now look at what you're
Yeah.
doing with your brain.
Okay.
You're trying to figure it out.
That's true.
Right? So you're going to create a meaning of life, and not just for yourself. Now you're going to be magnanimous and go create a meaning of life for Andrea. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, let me play the Yeshua role in this. So does that mean you've already solved all of your own problems, Susan? Does that mean you've already decided your own purpose in life and that now
I
you
don't know
can
what you're doing.
well, you can spend your
Yeah.
time energy your mind energy trying to figure out what Andrea's life was about.
That's true.
And I'm just trying to help you quit spinning in that figure it out part of your mind and
Yeah.
just step back from it and say, oh yeah, there it goes. There I go. There's that part of my mind that's always trying to
That's
figure
true.
stuff out.
I want to understand stuff to stay okay or
Yeah, you want to feel okay, right? So there's
right.
another worksheet or 12,000 on safety,
Right.
on
Yeah.
control.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we need to do is just step into the awareness that, oh, there's my mind doing that figure it out thing, tripping down this trail and that trail. What if this? What if that? Oh, that that might be a good time for me to step back and do a worksheet on or a round of tapping on safety or control, right? Why is that part of my mind so energized and active right now that it wants to figure this out? I must not be feeling very safe. Let me tap into that. Let me breathe and soften. Let me do some work around this energy that's less than love that just got revealed to my awareness.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to engage a process like that every time this kind of negative, not negative, but spinning and figuring it out part of your mind kicks in, you can use it as your own personal coach, your own personal trainer. Every negative thought you have can be turned into that alarm, alert, shift gears, and have me do the piece of work that helps me move into the next moment with greater liberty and lightness and awareness.
So it's all okay.
Yes, it's all just a part of the flow of life. So I realize that we're down to our last minute or less. So thank you again, as always, for your comments and questions. It's a Thursday, so there will be a support group tonight. Any